Vet Connect. I'm Tara Douglas. We had a great weekend once again at the Sylacauga Animal Shelter this past weekend. We got a big crew out there in spite of the fact that it was a couple of days before Christmas, and we were able to repair a lot of the kennels at the shelter and get all of the gates in working order, and we were able to walk all the dogs and pick up litter all around the shelter. So a big thank you to all the organizations that came together. We had the Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill there, we had the Sylacauga Beautification Council, we had the Sylacauga Pickleball Club, and all of the shelter staff. So we appreciate everyone who pitched in and got the shelter in great order, and so the dogs and the cats could have a wonderful Christmas. Now we have a dog that's there, he's a little over a year old. This is Wrigley. Wrigley is available for adoption. He is such a good dog. He has been taken to a lot of the different adoption events, so he's good riding in a car, he's good with other dogs, he's been very good with people and kids, and he is up to date on his shots. He's neutered, he's heartworm negative. He's just an excellent dog that loves to go for walks around there at that shelter. So if you are looking for a dog, he would be an excellent dog to bring into your household. So come on out any day of the week. You can call the shelter and come to meet Wrigley, or if you want to come out on Saturdays when we're there walking dogs, we're there from 11 to 1 every Saturday, and it would be great if we could find Wrigley a home for the new year, because we need to get this sweet dog out of the shelter. Now, we are going to switch gears here and not talk about dogs or cats today. We're talking to Brielle Hay. She is a student at Auburn University, and Brielle, she works with swine. So I have to admit, this is the first time I've ever discussed swine on the show, and probably ever talked to someone about pigs in general. So I appreciate you coming on.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Now, you're a student at Auburn. How far along are you?
I'm wrapping up my sophomore year, about to enter spring semester.
Okay. And you're going to vet school, correct? Now, what are you majoring in right now in undergrad?
So my degree right now is animal science with a discipline of pre-vet. So there's a bunch of different ways to go to vet school.
Okay.
But the most common one is what I'm doing. That's animal science. And so you get a lot of hands-on experiment. There's a lot of classes and stuff that's like really specific to animals. But I mean, I've met multiple people. Like I know people who are pre-vet in fisheries.
Okay.
And so they're interested in like wildlife. And then there's like wildlife biologists that are also like pre-vet. So there's a ton of different tracks in there depending on what you're doing. So since I want to go into large animals, I'm taking the animal science track, and that's going to give me a lot of stuff in livestock.
And that's so great. There's so many opportunities there at Auburn. You always hear about the vet school and how good it is, but in reading it, for some reason I get the vet magazine. I think someone at Auburn at some point thought I was a vet instead of a chiropractor. So I get the veterinary magazine every quarter, and I enjoy reading it. So thank you, Auburn, for sending it to me. But it's there's so much going on with the vet school and with all those different tracks that you can do at Auburn. What made you decide to do large animal?
Honestly, I just always have been just drawn to larger animals. I always said the bigger the better. Like during high school, I volunteered at the AIDB equestrian unit.
Okay.
And we had a draft horse that was about 6 feet at the shoulder, and she was my favorite. I'm like, I just really like large animals.
And there's a lot of opportunity too. I don't know where you want to practice when you graduate, but in the vet magazine, I was reading about a lot of opportunity in some of the rural counties in Alabama that they're really trying to draw students there when they graduate, and you have all kinds of grants and ways to get all of your school paid for if you practice in those areas where they just don't have access to vets, but they have a lot of large animals. So let's get to what you're doing currently. So how did you end up at the Swine Education and Research Center?
So I started this class called Intro to Animal Science, and this is just a class that gets us kind of used to a lot of basic information about animals, livestock, and helps us to introduce us to a lot of opportunities at Auburn. So we toured all of our animal units, which is what the swine unit is. We have a bunch of different ones for our students to get experience at. So we have swine, beef, poultry, equine, and then we keep dairy cattle and sheep at the vet school.
Okay.
So we were touring the swine unit, and they're like, we need student workers. So I walked up and I was like, hey, I want to work here.
Okay.
So they got back with me, and they're like, sure, come on in.
And you had not really had you'd worked with horses, like you said, in high school. You had not had any any experience with pigs.
None.
So what's been the most eye-opening thing working with pigs?
Well, you do learn that a lot of livestock are similar. You can't let them shove you around because they're big. I don't think people really realize how big pigs get, because I hear people talking all the time. They're like, "Oh, the piglets are so cute. I'd love a piglet." And I'm like, "Do you know that they get to 600 pounds? Like, they're not tiny.
That's
like,
a lot of pig.
They're they're very dense as well. Sometimes you get reminded of just how much power they have, because I mean, despite how big they are, especially our boars, which are getting upwards to 700 pounds, are very gentle for boars. And when they get something that they want to see, sometimes you remember just how much power they have when you're just shoved out of the way, no thought.
Yeah, I would imagine you get that much weight behind an animal, they're going to put you where they want you if you let them. So what kind of work are you doing there? Like, what do you do specifically with the swine unit?
Basically, whatever needs to be done. We have a really wide range of skills, and that can mean anything from moving the pigs to the different rooms that we have, because we have rooms that are separated by what stage of life they're in.
Okay.
Or sometimes I do a lot of vaccinations, I do a lot of cleaning, we feed them. Anytime I work, we have morning, afternoon feed, and sometimes I even weld their pins back together that they break.
So tell me about them breaking these pins, because we were I'll just mention being at the shelter over the weekend. We had 3 guys there welding all of those kennels back together, and kennels are strong, so pigs can just break through a kennel if they want to, or an enclosure?
They can. They usually, I will give them some credit that they usually snap at previous, because they're steel bars and they're welded together, so they usually snap at the seams, so I can give them that much. But especially a lot of the ways that we have our pins set up is you have kind of like these 2 eyes, and we'll have a metal, like a steel bar that goes through these 2 eyes to hold the gate in place. And often we'll leave that steel pin sitting in the gate. And sometimes if it's stuck in the top there, the pigs will just walk by, they'll just rush out, and that steel bar is just bent.
Just knock it off.
It's just completely bent.
Now, did you know how to weld before you got there, or is that another skill you've learned being there at the research center?
I welded once with my dad when I was like 10, and then I showed up to work one day, and my boss was like, "We need to weld some pins together," and I was like, "Okay." So he showed me how to do it, and then the next day, he's like, "I need you to go weld these pins." I was like, "Okay." So I was like, I went and welded the pins. He's like, "Here's an angle grinder. Here's our welding kit. Bye."
So I bet you are such a valuable person to have there, because if they tell you to go do something, sounds like you're the personality just going to go do it and figure it out and get it done.
That's honestly the attitude that you have to have coming in with no experience. I mean, you can't just be like, "I don't really feel like it." Like, I mean, they gave me the opportunity to be able to work with something I've never worked with before, and so take what you can get.
And you've got to learn, but you also have these living, breathing animals that are depending on you to take care of them and make sure they're okay. So how many pigs do they have there?
Too many. Well, we just had some pigs born.
Okay.
And we average 10 to 12 a litter, but I've seen litters as big as 17, 18.
Wow.
So we usually have about roughly 14 to 16 sows in the farrowing house.
Okay.
And that can be a good over 100 pigs in just that one room. And we also have our breeding room, which is where we keep all of our breeding sows, boars.
Okay.
We have the nursery where we keep weaned piglets, and then
Okay.
we have finishing where we grow them out before we send them to the meat lab.
Okay. And so, you've got all kinds of things there at Auburn. So it sounds like you've got, the ability to learn how to handle pigs, how to raise pigs, what needs to happen in a farm kind of setting, and what would need to happen in a vet kind of setting. But then you also have some research that's done, and then you also have the meat lab there. So you have all kinds of interesting things that can happen, that different pathways that students can take to learn all kinds of different things. So do you think you would like to have pigs of your own someday, or is this you just are going to know what to do with the pig as a vet and not have to take care of them yourself?
I think possibly. I will say pigs are incredibly loud, incredibly.
Okay.
They scream. One thing about pigs is they are very dramatic. I didn't really realize that. It's really funny because you'll pick up a piglet and they just scream. You're not doing anything, they just scream. And they get loud. Like, I wear a little Apple Watch to work, and it's like, your environment is above 90 decibels. And like, I can't really tell them to stop screaming, so
You need some earplugs.
we have them.
So with the pigs themselves, you know what? So you have the little piglets. Do they grow up there? Do some of the pigs get sold to farms, or what happens with that?
So we're biosecure, so that means I have to shower in, but that also means that we can't have any like outside pigs come in. Okay. So all of our pigs at the unit are born there.
Okay.
So we're farrow to finish is what it's called. So we AI, artificial inseminate our sows.
Okay.
And that brings in new genes, so the gene pool doesn't get stagnant. And we raise them completely there. And then once the pigs leave the unit, they can't come back.
Okay. And so you don't have a lot of visitors that can come in and tour either, it sounds like.
If they're willing to shower in.
Okay.
That's basically it. If they're not willing to shower in, then you can look from the outside, because
Okay.
we have curtains that you can raise up,
Okay.
and you can look in.
So there are ways to see what's happening there. Now with you, you were telling me that pigs are the smartest of all livestock. So tell us a little bit about that with pigs.
Yeah, so they're kind of up there with dogs. They have kind of similar intelligence to them. I've seen multiple things of like pigs being really good at solving mazes and stuff.
Okay.
But with intelligence comes stubbornness. So that can make issues with moving them, because, I mean, they are intelligent, but they don't understand necessarily. So sometimes they're like, I don't want to go here. And you're like, well, you kind of need to. So that can cause some arguments and make a long day longer when you have a lot of pigs. Like one day if pigs go over state lines, they have to have ear tags.
Okay.
I don't know the details of exactly why. There are tons of ways that, like, all our pigs have tattoos in their ears.
Okay.
With our farm number. So if some of them were to get a disease, it could be traced back. We could trace back where they came from.
Okay.
So that's most likely something with that. But one day we had to tag 47 pigs, and these were ones from our finishing. They were close to 230 pounds, so
Okay.
they're not ones that, when they're young enough, we can kind of pick them up. We couldn't pick these up. We just had to make them walk. So sometimes it can be difficult because you just want them to walk down a hallway. You're like, just walk down the hallway. And they're
And
like,
they don't want to do it.
they're like, no, I don't think so. And I'm like, I need you to walk down this hallway.
Well, it sounds like you enjoy all your learning there at the Swine Center, even though you may not end up with pigs of your own. But we appreciate you coming on and telling us about your experience at Auburn and telling us about your experience with pigs. Because, like I said, I've never talked to anybody about pigs. This was fun. And there's so much more that I'd like to learn. So as you do more at Auburn, we'll have you back on the show. When you come home and visit and stay with your family for a little bit, let me know, and we'll come back on and talk about your next frontier at Auburn. So we appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much for joining us for Pet Connect. Make sure you come out to the shelter this weekend on Saturday, 11 to 1. We'll be walking dogs again. And don't forget, we've got Wrigley there who's available for adoption. So if you're looking for a dog, head on out and meet Wrigley, meet any of the other dogs there that are available. And don't adopt a pig, right?
Unless you're
a pet.
prepared. Unless you're
For a
prepared.
pet. Thank you for joining us, and we'll have more Daybreak after these messages.